I'm Tracy E. Gilchrist, and this is Equal Entertainment. The world is watching Hollywood after 160,000 actors joined writers in a strike, holding studios and streamers accountable.
Because the AMPTP remains unwilling to offer a fair deal on key issues essential to protecting the livelihoods of working actors and performers, SAG-AFTRA's national board unanimously voted to issue a strike order against the studios and streamers.
SAG-AFTRA, the union representing actors, could not get a deal after weeks of talks with the Alliance of Motion Picture and Television Producers. The AMPTP released a statement blasting the union, saying it has chosen a path that will lead to financial hardship for those who depend on the industry. SAG President Fran Drescher says they had no choice.
And so it came with great sadness that we came to this crossroads, but we had no choice. We are the victims here.
The SAG-AFTRA members are joining the more than 11,000 members of the Writers Guild of America who are already on strike. Actors are now walking away from the cameras. The stars of Oppenheimer left the film's London premiere. One of the sticking points in negotiations is AI. Actors say Congress needs to get involved.
There are no guidelines right now controlling AI, and I think it's up to Congress to come up with some solutions and some guidelines and some laws to protect us. You know, because if you look at the history of film in dealing with man versus computer, it's always been we need to protect ourselves, whether it's HAL or the Terminator. So we've been warning people for years, but now it's time to actually do something.
Meanwhile, Disney's top executive is getting a raise and a contract extension. The company's board unanimously voted to extend Bob Iger's contract through the end of 2026. He made $27 million in 2022 and cut over 7,000 jobs. The executive is under fire with now two of Hollywood's most influential unions striking for better wages and assurances on critical issues. If you're like me, you know what it means to be a theater kid, and a new mockumentary is taking that to a whole new level. Theater Camp stars Ben Platt, Molly Gordon, and Noah Galvin, among others, as staff members at an upstate New York camp for theater kids, and it does a great job of paying tribute to queer elders in the musical theater world.
I'm going to go to you first, Noah. Would you chat a little bit about what it means to you to play this character who realizes their full potential and allows themselves to really grow into what they want to be?
Yeah, it means a lot to play this character. I think we often get to see performers on screen and, you know, the Rachel Berrys of the world. But we don't often get to see the stage managers and give voice to the, you know, the men and women in black behind the stage. And so it was fun to get to sink my teeth into somebody who maybe has a want to be a Rachel Berry or a secret passion, but whose main focus is just the creation and process. That's something I love as a performer, as an actor.
Molly, would you touch on friendship and chosen family in this film?
Yeah, I mean, it's extremely meta because I met Ben when I was 3 years old and fell deeply in love with him. And though he didn't love me romantically, our friendship has been one of the great loves of my life. And, you know, I don't have any siblings. He's like my family. And I think that bond has, has pushed me forward in so many times of my life. And I just love that our film celebrates finding your family, whatever that means to you. It doesn't have to be your blood family. It can be your theater family, your sports family. There's only theater or sports. Sorry, I can't think of other references, but and also just how hard it is to find a community and I don't know, don't be hard on yourself.
Similar to what Molly's saying, I think it took me a second to really embrace who I am. And in this film, this character is very eccentric and fabulous. And I was I was me times 10. And it was amazing. It was freeing. So I've kind of taken that character with me in my real life. And now I'm just my nails are I always have these nails, you know, I feel very Gigi now, in a good way. So.
Ben, I'm going to ask you to talk about the importance of a film like this that celebrates otherness and queer identity and, this this kind of family as well, but really celebrating otherness and queer identity at this juncture, and why that's important for people to feel seen.
Absolutely. It's a pleasure and I think privilege for all of us to do a movie that has so much varied queer representation and that centers only queer power and joy and doesn't have anything to do with oppression or trauma or the difficult political climate. Not that that's not important, but I think it's so important to just show that there are so many different permutations of being queer and so many people absolutely thriving being queer. And it's nice to be centering a community where there isn't a token queer character, is a token straight character. And there are so many different versions of queer characters. And we just wanted to paint a proper picture of this particular community, this theater community, and it's no secret that a huge section of this theater community has.
It was fun playing the token straight character, and just kind of being the reactor and just letting everyone just kind of be their eccentric selves, and Troy is just there kind of baffled by the whole experience. But it was fun to play the straight man. Both literally and figuratively, and just let everyone else kind of do their thing.
I'm gonna say that, yeah, I think it was important to us, this idea that like theater and the art itself has a way of actually like creating that empathy and pulling people in, and that it's actually that moment when Troy watches the the tech rehearsal that he realizes like, oh, I actually do have a way to belong here, and I think that that's part of what is the magic of theater and really essential to our movie.
Thank you to the cast for speaking with me. Theater Camp is in theaters now. The 1997 movie Chasing Amy was the first glimpse of LGBTQ+ representation on screen for many. The Kevin Smith-directed film that starred Ben Affleck and Joy Lauren Adams tells the story from the POV of Affleck's character, who is in love with Amy, a lesbian. Filmmaker Sav Rogers is revisiting the impression the film left on him as a kid from a small town in a new documentary called Chasing Amy. Sav, along with GLAAD director of transgender representation Alex Schmitter, say films like Chasing Amy made them feel seen, even if the film was viewed as deeply problematic by many back in the day.
You know, what I was responding to at the time with Chasing Amy was that it was such an honest film, or felt like an honest film at the time. And it was unlike anything that I had really seen before. And for that, I began my whole identification with Chasing Amy, which was, you know, they were comic book writers, they were geeks like me, but they had fun, they had friends. The queer people in that movie, you know, had full, rich lives in a way that I just hadn't seen before. They had personalities, they could have fun, they could laugh. And then, you know, as things got worse for me at school, it became a life raft when I really needed it. And it was a very important movie to me, and that kept me alive. And I fully credit with saving my life, and I mean it, because it was the first time that I felt any identification with a character that made me feel like I actually existed.
Tracy, both of us grew up in places that we didn't know queer people like us existed. And so these movies, regardless of how they've aged in very specific ways or how we look at them retrospectively, they were the one place we were able to cling to some sort of identification or relationship to what we were experiencing or figuring out we were experiencing in our own lives. And I think that's an important quality of when we're talking about these movies that had such profound impact on us, that we didn't personally know people around us to further color our relationship to other queer people like us.
Visit chasingmydoc.com for more information and screening options. Beyonce's Renaissance World Tour is now coming home for the US leg, and the Beehive is buzzing. Shows this month include stops in Nashville, Louisville, Minneapolis, Chicago, Detroit, and the New York area. From there, Beyonce's tour schedule runs into early fall. Renaissance is Queen Bey's 7th album. She now holds the distinction of being the recording artist with the most Grammys in history. You can watch the Advocate channel live by downloading our app in the Apple or Google Play Store. You can also subscribe to our YouTube channel. For the Advocate channel, I'm Tracy E. Gilchrist, and thank you for being here.